If you ask someone about heavy metal, you're probably going to hear three words, right? Loud, heavy, and distorted.
Right, and it feels like a sound that just appeared out of nowhere, totally separate from all the rock music that came before it.
Exactly. But how did that specific sound, that kind of electric roar, actually get invented?
Well, that's what we're getting into. Heavy metal didn't just happen in a vacuum. It really exploded in the late 60s and early 70s.
Mostly in the UK and the US, yeah.
Yeah, primarily in these, working class industrial cities.
Mm.
Musicians were listening to blues rock to psychedelic rock, but they wanted something more.
More.
Yeah, a sound that was just thicker,
Yeah.
way more powerful, and just so much louder than anything that existed at the time.
It really was like a sonic arms race. And if you look at the origins, especially a place like Birmingham in England, the city itself was shaping the music.
How so?
Well, think about it. These cities were just filled with the nonstop noise of factories, of heavy machinery, and that energy, that industrial kind of aggression, it bled into the music.
That makes so much sense. This wasn't music for, a polite little dance party.
Not at all.
It was rebellious. It set itself apart from all the happy mainstream pop stuff of the late 60s almost immediately. And it got popular not just for the volume, but because the skill needed to play is just incredibly high.
A whole new level of precision and power.
Totally.
Okay, so let's break down the recipe, because it all has to start with the blues.
Oh, absolutely. The DNA of heavy metal it's just deeply rooted in African-American blues music. The first metal guitarists, they took those classic blues scales.
They cranked them up.
They cranked them up, played them faster, and, with a completely different emotional lens.
And they really amplified the tension in the music, didn't they?
They did. Blues music has that blue note, which gives it that classic sort of sorrowful feeling.
Right.
Metal musicians grabbed that idea of tension and just dialed it all the way up.
And they did that using a very specific musical interval, right? The tritone.
The tritone, yes.
That sounds pretty epic, but what is a tritone, actually?
Okay, so musically, it's the space between one note and another note that's 3 whole steps away.
Mm-hmm.
It creates this really dark, almost unstable mood.
Jarring, almost.
Very jarring. And this wasn't an accident. Historically, in classical music, they actually called the tritone diabolus in musica.
Wait, what does that mean?
The devil in music.
No way.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because it sounded so harsh. So metal musicians took this sound that was literally forbidden for centuries and made it the absolute centerpiece of their music.
That is an amazing detail. So they used it to express these darker, more powerful emotions.
Yeah, none of that would have even been possible without the technology. I mean, this music is fundamentally electronic. It's built on breaking the rules of sound engineering.
Right, because before metal, the goal was always clarity. Musicians wanted their instruments to sound as clean and crisp as possible.
Exactly. They spent fortunes on it.
Why did these guys start intentionally breaking their own sound? Was that on purpose at first?
Not really. It was, a happy accident. Early tube amplifiers, if you push them to their absolute maximum volume, they just couldn't handle it. They'd overload. And the vacuum tubes would create this fuzzy, gritty sound we now call distortion. And these bands realized, hey, that's not a mistake.
Yeah.
That's an effect. A really powerful one.
And they started doing it on purpose, pushing the amps, getting pedals to create that sound.
Right. And distortion does more than just make things louder. It adds all these extra frequencies, these harmonics, that make the notes last way longer. It helps them sustain.
Which let the electric guitar finally step up and become the undisputed lead instrument.
And to show that off, they started building those huge stacks of speakers on stage. The wall of sound.
It wasn't just for looks then.
No, it was functional. It was designed to hit you physically.
Okay, and we can't talk about the building blocks without hitting the most important one, the power chord.
Ah, the power chord. The absolute foundation of metal harmony.
It's so simple, but so effective.
It's the ultimate tool for aggression. A power chord is just 2 notes, maybe 3, the root note and the 5th. What's missing is the 3rd note.
And the 3rd is the one that tells you if a chord is happy, major, or sad, minor.
Exactly. So by taking that out, the chord isn't happy or sad. It's just powerful. It's ambiguous.
Which means it doesn't sound muddy or messy when you pile on tons of distortion.
Right. It lets the guitarist move really fast and create that thick wall we were talking about. And then the bass player usually doubles that same line.
Making those low frequencies just massive.
That's why you don't just hear metal. You literally feel it vibrating in your chest.
We've got the tools. Now we need the architects. When you talk about who really invented the heavy metal style, not just loud rock, but metal, everyone points to Black Sabbath.
They wrote the rule book, and they came straight out of that industrial Birmingham environment we mentioned.
And the heaviness of their sound, it actually came from an accident, right?
A really specific one, yeah.
Oh.
Their guitarist, Tony Iommi, had a horrible factory accident that chopped off the tips of his fingers.
Wow.
So playing a normal guitar was suddenly incredibly painful for him.
So what did he do?
To make it easier to press the strings, he just tuned his guitar way down, lower than standard. And that simple, practical fix created this incredibly deep, dark, and heavy tone that nobody else was using.
And they didn't play fast.
No, they were the opposite. They played these slow, crushing, almost unbelievably heavy rhythms, and the lyrics matched it perfectly.
They weren't singing about peace and love.
No, they were singing about war, social problems, personal struggles. They brought this sense of drama and mystery that just became the standard for the whole genre.
But they weren't the only ones out there. You had Led Zeppelin, who were so important in bridging that gap between hard rock and what would become metal.
Absolutely. Zeppelin was famous for mixing things up. They'd have these beautiful acoustic folk sections right next to these incredibly loud, heavy electric parts.
Their guitarist, Jimmy Page, was a genius in the studio. He was layering multiple guitar tracks on top of each other,
which created this huge three-dimensional sound. It sounded way bigger than just one guitar.
And you can't talk about Zeppelin without talking about the drums.
John Bonham. He basically invented the idea of the heavy hitter drummer. He used a massive bass drum, tuned it really low, and it just gave the music this thunderous weight.
And then you have Robert Plant's vocals over the top. That high-pitched, powerful wail became the template for so many metal singers.
For sure. Then on the other side, you have a band like Deep Purple,
who are all about technical skill and speed.
Yeah, they raised the bar for how well you had to be able to play your instrument. And they had a really unique sound because they had a keyboard player.
Right, the Hammond organ. But they didn't use it like a 60s rock band.
Not at all. They plugged the organ into a giant distorted guitar amplifier,
which created that incredible growling sound, the famous duel between the guitar and the organ.
Exactly. And Deep Purple was known for playing super fast with all this complex improvisation. Their guitarist, Ritchie Blackmore, he started mixing blues licks with like classical music scales.
Which basically invented a whole new style, right? Neoclassical metal.
Pretty much. They showed that this loud noise actually required some serious musical chops. It demanded a huge commitment to your instrument.
So if the guitar is the crunch, then the drummer is definitely the engine of the whole thing. Metal drumming is all about providing that driving force.
It is. It requires this insane combination of raw power and like machine-like precision.
And the key innovation there was the double bass drum pedal.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
That changed everything. It lets the drummer use both of their feet on two pedals, hitting the bass drum, which creates these incredibly fast, constant galloping rhythms.
It sounds almost like a machine gun.
It does, and it provides this relentless intensity. But you have to have extreme physical endurance to keep that up for a whole song, let alone a whole concert.
And you have to stay perfectly in time with these super complex guitar riffs.
Right. And you need a big drum kit, heavy sticks, huge cymbals, just to be heard over the guitar.
The vocals have to fight to be heard too, right? Which is why metal singing is so distinct.
It is. Because the music is so incredibly loud, the singer has to find a way to cut through all of that sound.
So that's why you get those really high-pitched, soaring, almost operatic vocal styles?
Exactly. It's like a signal trying to pierce through the noise. But then in other subgenres, the more aggressive ones,
the vocals get more gravelly, more like shouting or even growling.
Yeah, those textures add a different kind of darkness. But no matter the style, it takes incredible physical strength and breath control to do that night after night without destroying your voice.
So we have this music that's dark, technically demanding, and physically intense. Why did it connect so deeply with young people back then?
I think it really provided a sense of community. If you felt like an outsider or you just didn't fit in with the mainstream, the metal scene was a place you belonged.
A home for the misunderstood.
Totally. And the concerts themselves were this huge positive release of energy. It was a way to express yourself, feel independent, and share this incredible experience with other people.
So even though the music sounded aggressive, the community itself was really supportive.
Very loyal and inclusive. And you have to remember, critics at the time just dismissed it all as meaningless noise.
But the fans saw something else.
The fans saw the virtuosity. They saw the incredible technical skill, and they heard lyrics that were talking about real-world struggles they could relate to. And this subculture grew with its own fashion, its own art, its own language. It became one of the most loyal fan bases in the world.
And as the genre got more popular, it started to spread and branch out.
Yeah, it had to diversify. That's the cool thing about the foundation that bands like Sabbath and Zeppelin built. It was strong enough to support all these different styles,
So you get things like thrash metal.
which was all about being super fast, super aggressive, and often very political. And then you had the more theatrical bands, using costumes and makeup and huge stage shows.
And it truly became a global movement.
It did. You started seeing these amazing, unique metal scenes pop up in places like Germany, Brazil, Japan. They would all take the basic template and add their own local flavors to it. The music just kept evolving.
And its legacy goes way beyond just metal music, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. Think about it. All of those technical innovations they pioneered. The push for more powerful amps, the new recording techniques, the massive stage productions, all of that benefited the entire music industry.
They pushed the limits of what was possible with sound.
Exactly. And today, you can hear the influence of that distorted power chord, that driving heavy beat in almost every kind of modern rock. You even hear it in pop and electronic music sometimes.
So heavy metal, it was born from the soul of the blues and brought to life by these huge leaps in technology.
And it became this complex, global, and incredibly resilient cultural force that's still going strong today.
A sound that was built on accidents, rejection, and a commitment to being as loud as humanly possible. What will you listen to differently now? See you next time.